Thanks Riccardo, Conarem and Mobilatina. This is not the first time we meet. And we met a few years ago in Brussels. And I'm really happy to be here in Automechanica with a multicultural crowd. What we're gonna talk about today is the story of a taxi. A taxi that has been there for decades. And this taxi was working just fine. And then at some point Uber arrived. And this taxi knew that he had to wake up an hour earlier in the morning and he had to run a bit faster. And then at some point he had to change the engine and then he had to change the driver. So it was all about change. This was just a metaphor, but this is just a little bit what the story you're gonna hear today. It's the story of a very traditional business that was funded just after Second World War in Italy. And in the past few years, this business has just worked fine for 5-6 decades, from 1952 until 2008, 2009. And then the whole war that was surrounding this business just disappeared. So this business had to find a new shape and had to change in a dramatic way. And we're gonna show you now a video, and this is the video of the business I run, and this is how we sell trucks today.
In the last decades, we transported any type of goods, with vehicles getting bigger and bigger, faster, more powerful, contributing to shape the world we live in. It now appears smaller, but also more fragile. Are we still on the right path?
Jackson.
Now we are designing a different future, with new ideas of sustainable logistics on all the main European routes, ready to integrate an exponential innovation with the respect for the environment. This is our vision of future.
So this is basically some of these things we do, some of these things we don't do yet, but we are really trying to do them. So this is about what? Why did we have to change? How can, yeah, you get the presentation. Why did we have to change? Because the market, the clients, they just didn't need someone that would sell them a product. I would just go and sell it. That's just commodity. So we found out, how many mics do you want me to have both? Okay. So basically we found out, but this doesn't work either. Pronto. So this I don't need? Okay. Much better. So basically we found out that the market needed a different value proposition. The market was changing a lot. It was consolidating. The clients, our clients are mainly workshops, oficinas, and also road transport companies, truck drivers that were consolidating into bigger conglomerates, fleets. The kind of clients we had different needs, and the market was becoming more and more demanding. And we found out that these guys didn't need a concessionaria. They just didn't need a shop. They just didn't need someone who would give them a product. But they needed a platform. That's what we found out. So we said, why don't we turn this shop that works so well in the past 6-7 decades? We made money for 10, 20, 60 years. It's time to change. We need to take a bet. We need to place a bet. And that's what we did. We turned into a platform And I'm gonna tell you like very, very quickly the story. So this is our first company, you know, like this is just after First World War. My grandfather started selling Fiat cars in the south of Italy, and basically Fiat cars and Fiat trucks. So he basically turned a lot of people from horses into cars and trucks. So it was a real disruption, you know, like it was a real technological disruption. And this happened 70 years ago. And basically, you know, like the definition at the time was a B2B service provider able to provide world-class solutions to transport companies of all sizes. And this is still what we do, basically. Okay, this is a little bit me, what I do, and I also represent European truck dealers in Brussels at the European Parliament. So I was following very closely all the regulation part. And this is our value proposition, basically. This is what we do today. We do everything a client needs in road transport. That's what we offer. So, of course, we sell them the vehicles. Of course, we provide them services. We can also rent them a vehicle if they have some peaks or they have some bad surprises. So, we're always there to satisfy their need. And of course, as you saw from the video, now we are investing a lot in technology, because there's been a lot of disruption in technology in a lot of industries, like banking, traveling. A lot of these industries, few of these industries have already been completely disrupted, whereas the automotive industry, especially on the truck and commercial side, is still living, you know, like it's offline, an offline life. But soon, that's our bet, a lot of stuff will go online. And also, when you invest a lot in technology and you raise the bar, it's fundamental for you also to invest into training. So we set up an academy, especially because we are in the south of Italy and everything happens in Milan in the north. We were buying a lot of airplane tickets to fly a lot of people in the north, so we decided to set up our own academy. And academy in our business today, we set up the academy a year ago. For us, forming and training our people and our clients and our stakeholders is more important than selling them trucks. So training is really at the core of our value proposition now. So this is what happened basically in the last 10 years. You know, like I think that this can apply to a lot of different industries. Basically, from 2008 to 2010, the world has changed. You know, like there was a whole world that completely collapsed, and at the time, 80% of our margin was coming from vehicle sales. So we knew that we had to change. And the market went down 50%. That means that if our revenues were 100, our revenues went to 50. Can you imagine how dramatic that can be? That's what happened, not in our company, but in the sector in Europe, as most of you know. So we knew that we had to reposition, and we had to do it in a very, very quick way. So we shift from a very traditional business into a service provider, and we grew like 3 times in terms of revenues. We will see that, how we did it. We went from a company that was doing 15, 20 million into a 70 million company. And today, 70% of our marginality is coming just from services. From us, like the product is completely not relevant. People pay us for the services that we provide them. And this is what we're gonna do in the next 5 years. That's what we need now. Now that we have a real platform, now that we have the market is with us, now that we have the volume, we're gonna invest into the people. We always invested into people, but now we need like a different profile of people. So we're gonna invest into managerialization, a higher set of skills, and operational excellence. Sometimes I check with the translator if, yes. Good. We tend to hire our people not on the knowledge that they have on the truck business, but we tend to hire people that is very much aligned to our values and to our vision. Doesn't work anymore. It works? Okay. Yeah. Our vision is made of financial soundness, because if you don't have the cash and if you don't have the banks on your side, there's not much you can do. Paramount customer service, because we are completely obsessed with our client. We will do anything our client needs. If we have a sort of a client that is transporting for Unilever, Procter & Gamble, Coca-Cola, multinational company, and he needs services on Sunday, at Christmas, at midnight, we will do it. Because if we won't do it, someone else will. Obviously, you know, like we believe a lot in lifelong learning. As I was saying before, we put the training at the core of our business, of our value proposition. We think that we never stop learning. And also, what we started doing like 2-3 years ago, we always monitor all the startup and innovation landscape around us. So basically, every time we know that digitalization is a very complex and long and cost and expensive path. So instead of trying to develop our own technologies, what we try to add pieces of digitalization by buying little pieces of startups that we think they're going in the right direction. And that's what we did basically. First of all, this is how we did it. We disinvested, we tried to disinvest and decrease our impact from low margin business. On the contrary, we increased the exposure and we really tried to put more money and more investment into businesses that were growing and that had a more interesting marginality. And don't give this for granted, because a lot of companies in our sector, they just don't do that. Once we had, once we had a better structure, we invested in a unique technology infrastructure. We did a lot of technological investments. And once we had with these 3 points in place, we scaled up the business. We started buying companies, buying a lot of people from different companies, and we grew in volume a lot. And then once we had the platform in place, we added new services. We first worked on the vertical integration, and now we're working on the horizontal one. This is also something very, very important. This can obviously we pay a lot of attention to the remanufacturing business. This is something we want to do because it presents like a very good marginality, very high barriers to entry, and this is something, for example, that Mekar is looking at. The Reman business, we want to do it. We want to hire the right people, and we want to get a piece of that on the Italian market. And this is fundamental. It's the sourcing review. What we did, we started looking at all our suppliers and review completely the prices, all the sell-in of the company and all the sell-out. We put into discussions all our suppliers. We did like a full review of our suppliers and our stakeholders, everything from banks to main partners to industrial suppliers. And this is the other very interesting point. We really looked for recurring revenues, ricavi ricorrenti, something that every month, like a Vodafone or a Telecom Brazil subscription, will give you a certain cash flow every month for the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years. And this is just, like all everything that we do now, because thanks to all these little investments that we did, like where we make the difference with our clients and with our fleets, it's just that we know in advance, sometimes we know in advance what they need, the parts that they need. So basically they own the truck, but they own their own trucks, but basically it's like we own them, because we know through technology we have the chance to manage completely their fleet. And that's where we add a lot of value. And then we went, as you can see, we went from one branch and 30 people into 6 branch and 85 people in like 5 years. Because what happened was that we found a space where we found a space where Iveco or Mercedes or Volvo didn't want to be. And also at the same time, we found a space where the clients didn't want to be either. So we found this little blue ocean where we could actually invest and attract people and make profits out of that. Okay, I wasn't sure when my guys wrote war at diesel, because it sounds very dramatic. But we are in Frankfurt today, so let's face it. I think that a few years ago, up to 2 years ago, a lot of people were saying, yes, maybe electric vehicles, maybe our kids in 20 years will talk about it, and then all of a sudden it became reality. Boom, a new war that knocked on our door, and now we have to face it. And like the gentleman here, he was saying, like the regulation from Brussels are surprisingly stricter and stricter, and they're asking for very strict deadlines. 5 minutes and I'm done. For very, very strict deadlines. So we said, okay, like this is also something that we want to play the green. We want to have a very strong eco-sustainable footprint. And this is how, like we decided to place a huge bet. Of course, like we couldn't place a bet on electric trucks, because you need a very strong vision to do that. And like in Italy, we don't have the Tesla trucks yet. But we have this solution that is called liquefied natural gas. That is like a very valid alternative to diesel. We have over 600, 700, we have like 600 trucks in Italy now, and roughly 280, today we sold 10 more, so roughly 280 are sold by our company. So we're very happy that we're gaining in this eco-sustainable scenario. And I think that after this, we can also conclude it. I just I wanna explain this. We found out that we have a franchising network of 25 workshops, and we found out that these workshops, they are the classical mom and pop business model. The father fixes the truck, the mother makes the invoice, and the second generation just tries to go online and be a little bit more technological. But we found out that these companies that had a very good marginality, because fixing, offering these services presents a very good margin, they had almost zero of accounting and finance. They didn't have a marketing department. Most of them in Europe, they don't have a website. IT services, most of the time they don't know what we're talking about. And also in logistics, they spend a lot of money. They don't optimize. So what we did is, we are providing these services to these companies. So we set up a service company that is also providing everything from a website to the marketing, to IT services, to everything from profit and loss to, like, we help them with the financial reporting and everything. And if you do it with some critical mass, this can give you a lot of return. And the return can be immediate, because it's like going into a dark cave and bringing electricity. and they will be very grateful about it. So these are just few of the things that we did in Mecca in the past 5-6 years. And why did we do it? Because we hired the right people. We didn't only hire truck experts, but we also hired people that were thinking outside of the box. And this is what we're doing, and today I just wanted to give you a flash about it. I hope that this was helpful, and I will be very, very happy to engage in a discussion with you, and I expect at least 3 questions. Thank you very much.
Question number 1. Mine.
Hi, don't worry, I have fake questions prepared from my audience here.
No, esto es apenas para entusiasmar a las personas que preguntan. My question is you are setting up a kind of a network to supply and support small businesses, and you probably get this monthly revenue that you were talking about that would give you a cash flow with these people, and besides you sell these guys parts probably.
Yes.
Apart from services. So how much of the revenue today in percentage depends on this on this side of the business?
Well, thank you. That's a great question. Basically, we believe that selling parts is a commodity, because in the 21st century, in 2018, everyone can sell you parts. But like, the services add a lot of value, and they really create a bond. So for us, it's not like the more services you give, the more parts, the bigger the bond you create, and the more parts you will generate, because you generate loyalty and you generate value. So you switch from being a supplier into like something else with a much higher value.